Hello all, welcome to ENH iSecure blogs. I am Kishore Gaddam, working as an architect in ENH iSecure. Today I'm going to explain the recommendations for SailPoint IAQ architecture and the live demo for DCDR failover. Agenda is DCDR architecture demo. The current setup or environment we have it is SailPoint IAQ 8.4, Java 17, Apache Tomcat 9, MySQL database, NGINX as a load balancer, Linux as operating system. We have two UI servers, two task servers, two MySQL servers, two load balancers. Each one of them as one as acting as a DC and another one as DR. The use cases that I'm going to demonstrate is primary load balancer routed to DC, primary load balancer routed to DR when DC is down, secondary load balancer routed to DR when primary load balancer is down, primary database replication to the secondary database that is called one phase commit. The use case one is load balancer routed to DC. So the prerequisites for this is DR must be down and the DC application IAQs must be up and database is up and running. Let's jump into that IAQ. Let me log into the SailPoint IdentityIQ. So ENH SailPoint org is my primary DC system. Let me log into the system. I'm successfully logged into the DC system. We have few applications running currently. Let's go into the applications. What are the applications are currently running? And also, I would like to show you that how many UI servers are running and task servers are running. In this, we have one UI server, one task server in DC system. Now let's jump into the log configuration of NGINX. So I have configured the NGINX with the two servers. One is UI server 1 and UI server 1 of DC. If you see primary DC server with high priority, DDR server with low priority. So however DDR server is down, so it will be always routed to the 11.112.80.80. So when I browse the system, the all logs will be captured here. Let me refresh that latest logs. You see the requests are going always to the primary DC. The use case is load balancer DR system routed to DC of IAQ applications. So for this, DR must be down, DC applications must be up and running, databases up and running, and NGX must be running. That is the load balancer. Now let's log into the SailPoint application. Here we have configured one UI server and one task server. You see here ENH SailPoint organization is my DC system. Let's log into the SailPoint system. Credentials to log into the system. I'm successfully able to log into the system. So would like to browse something on the applications, how many applications that I have configured. So at present I have configured a few applications, and going to the identities, go into this identities. I have almost like 144152 is my identities count. So we need to understand how load balancer is routed to the DR system, sorry, DC system, because DR is down. Let me open a few configurations that I have. Currently, NGINX I have configured with two servers. One is primary DC and another one is DR server. So I have given the weightages. So based upon the weightages, it will route it to the priority, taking the priority. So I always given the priority to the DC system, which is up and running always. And the DR system currently it is offline. So we need to ensure that when we browse the SailPoint system, it is always routed to the 112 of 8080 port. So for this, I have configured logs so that we can able to see the browsing is always happening into the DC system or not. Let's jump into the logs. Let me refresh the logs. Okay, so my latest logs always resides into the 112, 112, 112. Okay, so when we first I log into the system, it is trying to look at the DC system and DR system. Since 111 is my DC system, 111 is my DR system, and 112 is my DC system. So always routed to the 112, 112, 112 is my DC system. Hope you understand. The second use case is load balancer, primary load balancer routed to DR systems. It means when DR system is up and running and the primary applications in DC are went to down. Consider like the primary load balancer ENH SailPoint org, and I'm logging into the system. Let me see that whether it is pointing to actual DR systems. Now I successfully connect to the DR systems and let's browse some content applications. So few of the applications are available. So we need to understand the how the load balancer routing is working. Let's go back to the previous one. Let me open the configurations. Now, as I mentioned, 112 is my primary DC server. 1113 is my DR server. So the DC system is down. It means like all the routing must be happen to 111 8080 portal. Even though the weights are even the weights are is less. So because the DC system is already down. we can verify using these logs. Let's reload the logs, the latest logs. So end of these logs, all the routing is shifted to 111111. So in this way we can identify that how the load balancer is taking up when it is DC is down, when DR is down. If you see in the previous logs, we have connected with 1122. Now we are connected with 111. So it means like both it can be routed based upon the server IAQ application servers, whether it is up and running. It can take the decision where it can be able to route. Now the third use case is all DC applications are went down and DC load balancer is also went down. In this case, we need to trigger DR load balancer. Why? Because as per our architecture, what we have defined is we have configured two load balancer. One is for DC and one is for DR. If DC is went down, the load balancer DC is went down, we have another option to pick up or activate the DR system load balancer. Now, if you see the demo, we have one load balancer called, previously we have DC load balancer ENH SailPoint.org. Now we have another load balancer is ENH SailPoint dr.org. Let's log into this machine. So we were successfully logged into the DR systems with DR load balancer. Let's browse applications, or you might be able to browse identities. How many identities we have? And we have same identities what we have it in DC and DR. Now let's see how we need to identify the. Let's go back to our configuration. So this is typically DR systems NGINX load balancer. Both I have defined both a primary database, primary DC servers, and as well as the secondary DC server UI IAQ. But even though the weights are same, it must be routed to 11111 always, because the application server and load balancer in DC system is always down. Let's see the logs. So it is in my slash var log nginx set my prompt to some login and go back to var ENH and post the ENH logs. Now you see that everything is pointed to 111, Let's go back to our latest logs. So ended up with the logs and see all are browsing to 111. This way we can route the load balancing should be work. So the final conclusion of this is the load balancer is we we can able to having two load balancers make ensure like all the users activities we can able to perform, such as like whenever the without interruption with the users, when it is a DC is down or DR can able to pick up with the load balancer as an optional load balancer, and we can able to configure that, and we can automatically switch over to the DR system, and the users function without it will not disturb anything. The final use case is database replication. In our SailPoint DC DR architecture, one database is act as a primary database, and another one is act as a secondary or database backup. So the primary database is resides into the DC. The secondary or backup database resides into the DR, or we can say a replication database. So the replication is happens as a one-phase commit. So for this, the DC IAQs must be running and DR IAQs must be stopped or switch off. So if there are any organization in any organizations, if you want to do some kind of mock drill or any 6 months or 3 months, depends upon that, they will switch over from DC to DR. So in this kind of scenario, we need to make sure like our database are synced properly from primary database to the secondary database. Let's jump into the demo. So I opened the load balancer, which again say ENH SailPoint org. Now from this is my primary load balancer, and from this it is point to the primary IAQ applications. So which is resides into the DC. So now let me create one application. It will show that it will save into the primary database and obviously sync into the secondary database. So I have configured two databases. One is into the primary database, MySQL database, and the secondary database or backup database, which is residing to the DR system and the MySQL. Both I'm using a MySQL as a backend databases here. Let's create new application. For demo purpose, I'm using delimited file connector. Let me select delimited file, and the owner is, let's see, my name Kishore Gaddam, and I used to some HRMS underscore ENH employees. I'll go back to and make it as authorized application. Go back to configuration, and I'll configure my SFTP. This file is located into this file, and the port is 22. Enter the username, and the authentication password is to enter the password. Go back to enter the path. Let me, I have somewhere I configure the path. Take this path. enter here and enter the delimited file, and file has header. And now go back to schema and try to find discover attributes. So it is discovered all the attributes. Let's see. I'm using identity attribute, setting identity attributes, and as well as display attribute. I'm saving it, and so I'm previewing finally. So we got the data, and now what should I use? I'll say this one. So this application will save into the primary IdentityIQ database. Now if you see that the employees of whatever we delimited configure application has been created. So we need to check that whether it is synced to the DR system database. So I have logged into the uh, secondary database which is residing to the DC system. Now I would like to see whether this application has been created or synced into the database. You see now that HRS ENH employees has been created successfully. It means that the database replication is happened successfully, even though the DC uh, uh, the DC applications up and running and DR applications are down. We are located at multiple locations, headquarters in Hyderabad, Bangalore, and US office. Please follow our social media platforms.